welcome to Journey of the Sound, a music podcast for music people. My name's Jared Rocco. I'm a musician, composer, and most importantly, a music fan. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you'll enjoy what we've got for you today. The goal of this podcast is to interview as many musicians as possible and listen to their stories about how music first came into their lives, how it affects them today, and where they hope music takes them into the future. This is Journey of the Sound. And today I have the lovely Geena Renee with me. Welcome, Geena.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem.
You have such a nice voice for a podcast.
Oh, thank you.
So this is just so I'm getting to see it firsthand.
Yeah, I figured why not, put the loud Italian voice to good use, so Geena is a singer-songwriter, vocalist, pianist, and you play a few other things as well, right?
Yes.
What else do you play?
Guitar and violin.
Nice, cool. And we're going to jump right into your origin story right now. So for those of our listeners who aren't familiar with you or your music, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and what you play, and also how you got started with music. How did you start to learn? Okay,
lots of information. Mm-hmm. Gosh. Well, I'm from Jersey. Try not to make fun of me for that. I'm from Jersey. I first got my start in music when I was about 7. Just playing violin in my elementary school district, which was kind of a fluke thing. The paper came home. My mom was like, "You don't want to do this, do you?" And I was like, "I'll give it a try."
Really? Just like that? Just on a whim?
Kind of just on a whim.
Okay.
I'd never played anything else before, and I quickly fell in love with it.
Nice.
I wasn't the best in the class at first, but I knew I wanted to be, so that determination was there, and I would wake up early, like 6 o'clock in the morning as like a 7-year-old, which is very strange to me. Yeah. But I would wake up early before school so that I could practice because I
were dedicated.
Very dedicated. I really wanted to prove to my teacher that I could play the songs really well, and that I could get like the little sticker in my book when we have our lessons.
Gotta have those stickers.
I wanted that like approval from my teacher. So I worked really hard and practiced a lot and fell in love with it very quickly.
Nice. Violin's a tough instrument to start on, too.
It is.
Not a lot of people would recommend that.
It is. It takes a lot of discipline. But I always say I feel like that's the hardest instrument to learn that I've ever tried to learn.
Yeah, sure.
But I think it was a good one to start on in a way because then it made other things easier to learn.
Right. So start off with the hardest thing.
Yeah. Somehow I feel like that worked. So then when I was like 10, I decided I wanted to play piano and guitar. And my mom was kind of like, that's a lot, all the
on top of violin?
Yeah. I think she was afraid that I would kind of just end up like dropping violin or that I wouldn't be able to dedicate as much time to it because I really wanted to be able to take lessons on like piano, guitar,
all
violin.
3 of them.
I wanted to. But yeah, so my mom was like, no. So I decided, okay, well, I'll just pick it up by myself at home.
Self-teach yourself.
Yeah. So that was basically how that happened. And then somehow I started writing songs through that once I had the piano and the guitar to be able to really compose on.
What age were you when you started writing songs?
Probably about that same time. I'd say like 10 or 11.
Really? That young?
Yeah.
Most people I talked to are like, high school, 15, 16.
No, they weren't like, I'm not saying that they were good, but, I was writing songs
still,
like 10 or 11.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then I guess about that, like everybody else is saying, that high school age is when you kind of really start peaking, maybe like 13, 14, where I started writing like pretty wholesome, more that has a concept.
Songs,
yeah, exactly.
More mature.
Yes, a little more mature.
As mature as you can be at 16, anyways.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. And that was when I performed we had like open mic nights at my high school and stuff.
Nice.
And then that's when my teachers would come up to me and say, "Let me see your lyrics. Let me read this."
Wow.
Blah, blah, blah. And
so they took an active interest in your stuff. That's cool.
Yeah, and that's when they kind of started saying, "You should look into songwriting. You should kind of look more into that." And then that's, I guess, what led me to be here today.
Nice.
A little bit different style than what it was at the time. But
that's okay. I was going to say, what does a 10-year-old Geena Renee song sound like?
Oh, God.
Like a song when you wrote when you were 10, what would that sound like?
Still just as angsty as I am now.
You're an angsty 10-year-old. Not even a preteen, just I guess a 10-year-old is a preteen, right? A tween?
Yeah, a little tween. Yeah.
Yeah, what do you have to write about when you're 10?
The first song I wrote was called The Real Me. And I wanted everybody just to be able to take a chance to get to know the real me.
Oh,
I felt like
okay.
they didn't. I feel like they didn't. I wanted them to see who I was.
Mm-hmm. And who were you at that time?
Oh my god. A little nerdy, I guess.
It's okay.
Because,
we welcome nerds here at Journey of the Sound. You're in good company.
Yeah, I guess at that time, if I was like 10, I was still playing in the orchestra and everything.
Right,
and
okay.
I guess, okay, so yeah, then I definitely was still like that music nerd because my violin teacher would kind of like put me with the older kids because I was...
You're more mature.
Because I was capable of playing the 6th grade music instead of the 4th grade music.
Well, girls mature faster than boys, too. So
Yes, this is true.
You had a biological advantage.
Yes, that is what I count on for my musical advantages as well.
Oh, just continuing for your life in general.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
So I guess I was that kind of like really dedicated to academics, dedicated to doing well in orchestra.
Wow.
I don't know.
So you were everyone's favorite student.
I was definitely people would call me the teacher's pet. But
I
I didn't
didn't
view
want
it
to
like
throw
that.
that out there, but I was thinking it. I was definitely
I
thinking it.
never viewed it like that. I feel like I just always really connected well with adults,
Sure.
more so than people my age. And I bonded with them very quickly. I was always very close to my teachers, and I wanted to impress them and do well in school.
Sure.
It wasn't like I was just trying to kiss up to them. I feel like I was just naturally nice and well-mannered, and I don't know.
You wanted people to like you. It's understandable.
Yeah, I never tried actively to be a teacher's pet.
Right.
But I guess that's what I was.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. That's cool. It's cool. And so you were self-taught on guitar and piano for the most part?
Yeah.
Okay. How did you learn? You just looked up videos, or you just looked up chords, or tried to learn songs?
I think so. As far as keyboard goes, me and my sister got a keyboard for Christmas one year.
Okay.
I couldn't even tell you when that was. We were so little. And it came with a little book.
Okay.
With melodies to Christmas songs, Happy Birthday, like those kind of things. Just the one melody line. And I guess maybe it had the chords. I wouldn't even know. I'd have to look back at that book. But I would, once I knew how to read music from violin, I would just figure out where those keys were on the piano.
Oh, okay.
And at first I would label them.
Right,
like
of course.
C, D, E. You know,
Stickers
everybody does with like the
whatnot.
little stickers and the little duct tape or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And so I would start by just trying to read it kind of my right hand melody line, being able to read from violin.
Right, so being a violin player probably helped you.
Definitely. So it was kind of a combination between reading music and using my ear.
It's kind of the best thing you can do, really.
I feel like, yeah.
Good balance of the two skills.
Yeah, I agree. And then I guess that just kind of...
Translated to guitar as well.
Yeah, guitar, I think more so I wasn't thinking about the notes. I would look up chords and watch YouTube videos, and that was more like internet-based when I was with guitar. And then, I don't know, trying to think about how eventually I put like chords into piano. I don't know, I guess it happened organically.
Yeah, I was going to say it probably just happened as you got the stuff on guitar. You're like, all right, how can I translate this to a new instrument?
Yeah.
And then what about singing? When did you start singing?
Oh God, I was terrible. So bad.
Oh, good. We got to start somewhere.
When you don't realize like what pitch is and knowing how to sing properly. Probably about that same time that I started writing, like that 10-year-old, 11. Yeah. Okay. That was probably it.
So it all just kind of happened at once for you with all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Now, was there something that inspired you to want to do this? Was there a person you saw on TV or a music video or some band you're like, I want to do that?
Well, around that whole time, I'd say even earlier, more when I was just starting violin, more like 7, 8, I loved Evanescence.
Okay, yep.
Amy Lee was a huge influence on me. I dressed up as her for Halloween.
Nice.
Like, I had a poster in my room. I loved her.
Super fan.
Which is also like a weird choice for somebody that young, because there's that album, that Fallen album, that
it's a very popular album.
That blue cover. Like that is a very heavy album for somebody so
lyrically
young.
heavy, I imagine.
Lyrically heavy
right?
too. Yeah. So I don't know what drew me to that.
And you were mature for your age.
Again, yeah, in a really weird way, but I loved her.
Were your parents concerned? They're like, I don't know about this. You're listening to this music.
No,
or did they just not know?
No, they definitely knew. Especially because my mom took me to Hot Topic to get those tall boots with all the buckles on it for Halloween costume. Yeah, no, she definitely knew. I never went to see them live because I'd get it was probably like a mosh pit.
Right, and you were 10
I was too young for that.
Whatever. Yeah,
but they definitely knew I liked her a lot. So I guess maybe her. She was. I mean, I feel like she's still that album in itself is still a big influence on my music now. So
nice. We'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah,
influences.
Of course.
Do you remember what your first musical memory is growing up as a child?
Like, how young are we talking?
I mean, what
like
first?
Literally just the first thing I can remember.
Yeah, I'm always curious. Where people begin. Where do they start their journeys from?
There are two things that pop out to me immediately. One is that I was a dancer all the way from when I was 3, really right up until I went away to college.
Oh wow!
So, I guess learning choreography to music and everything would probably be some of the earliest memories. But I also remember being at my local town pool and having a portable CD player. It was yellow SpongeBob portable CD player. And that would keep me occupied for hours, and I'd just switch out the CDs.
What a great time, CDs, man. 2017 when we're recording this, and it's like CDs are already...
They're on their way
Old
out.
news, man.
I know.
For the kids of today.
I know.
Making me feel old already, but...
I know.
Like, people don't use CDs. Maybe for the car.
Yes. Well, they can choose, too, what songs they want off of an album. Like, when we found a song that we liked...
You had to buy the whole album.
You had to buy the whole CD just to listen to that one song, and then hope that maybe you would listen to the other songs. Yeah.
Yeah, and same thing with going back to our parents' generation with vinyl, too. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
CDs are a little bit more portable, which is nice, but still, I don't know. Do you miss that kind of stuff, having physical CDs? Or have you completely embraced the digital?
I still like to have certain CDs. I have kind of a CD rack that I bought. Certain artists or certain ones that I just really like this album. Like I see your poster. Okay, computer. I have that. I have a physical copy of that.
Yeah, I'm guilty of having
that
on multiple formats.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
As a lot of other albums, I'll buy it twice.
Yeah.
Which the record industry loves me for.
Yeah.
But,
you have the CD. You bought the MP3. You also have the vinyl.
Parents what are you doing? Why do you need this and this? Get all the formats.
Yeah.
You get it on cassette. 8-track,
This is hysterical.
Yeah. So let's jump into influences a little bit. You mentioned Evanescence already.
For sure.
Anyone else that has influenced your songwriting specifically?
Panic at the Disco.
Really? Okay.
Yes. I looked up to Brendan Urie a lot. I still do. For more of the theatrical, kind of Moulin Rouge inspired, cabaret inspired, that quirky stuff. I look to him a lot. That I read. The one that I Write Sins Not Tragedies is on. A Fever You Can't Sweat Out. Okay. That album. Do you know that album?
Not super familiar with that.
Okay. Definitely look it up.
I know they have a big fan base.
Yes. I think that was 2005, that album came
out.
That
was my next question. When did you get into them?
Right on there. 2005. So I guess that would make me, how old? I was born in 96. 9?
Yeah.
Jesus, that sounds so young.
Again, mature for your age.
Yeah, that too.
Evanescence, Panic at the Disco.
Well, that content is not appropriate for somebody that young, but that's fine.
It's all good.
Yeah, but loved that album. I listened to that ad nauseum when I was little. That was a huge influence. More currently, Radiohead. Huge influence.
We're both big Radiohead
Yes, yes. So definitely.
What was the first album you got into, or was it just one song? Because for me, I just heard Creep for the first time, pretty much everyone else.
Yeah, I'm sure that was what I heard first.
Yeah, on Rock Band, I remember.
Yes.
You ever play that?
Yes, I have. I was more of the Guitar Hero kind of gal.
Okay, yeah.
So
I played both.
had Guitar Hero. I only played Rock Band a couple times when I would go to my friend's house.
Right, it was like a party thing.
But now I feel now that I have played in band settings more and have more music education, I feel like I wouldn't be able to play Rock Band because I feel like
really
I don't know, I feel like I'd get frustrated that it's this is not how you play drums,
right. Well, I mean that's the most realistic if you think about it compared to the guitars and I guess the vocals too.
Yeah,
that is pretty wild that they can actually detect the pitch.
Yeah,
on the microphone.
When you think about
There's a little arrow that goes up and down that shows whether you're on pitch or not. It's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. Maybe I haven't played it in a long time. Maybe I have to go back and try it.
It's fun if you have it.
Yeah.
My cousins and I have done that a few times where we'll take it out, whatever closet in the basement that it's in, and be like, yo, let's do this again. And, it's good.
I feel like I would be able to get my family and my friends from back home to do it.
Really? Oh, we have a great time.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like they... Like, my sister she hated... We had a bunch of those karaoke games. Like, the American Idol karaoke game.
Sure.
SingStar, I think, was another one.
Yeah.
Like, I had all of those, and I could never get her to play with me because it's not her thing. Like, she doesn't like singing. Yeah.
Oh, it's all good. It'll be a little nerve-wracking, for sure.
Yeah. Especially if you have somebody who's like, this is not in tune.
Right, exactly. Someone with your kind of
It
ear.
makes it not fun. I ruin
right.
the game, so.
Do you think you were introduced to any new music through those video games? Because I certainly was back in the day.
Certain songs that you hear on there. I feel like I remember the Killers being on one of those SingStar games.
Really? Oh, one of the single ones.
Yeah.
Mr. Brightside or something
yeah.
like that? Or when
and
we
somebody
were young.
told me, or like, a bunch of those were on there, and I feel like I listened to the Killers a lot after that.
Nice. So what about Radiohead? We're going back to Radiohead.
Yeah,
Do you remember
like
what
So
the first Radiohead you heard? I know you're a big fan of them.
I am. Love them. Love me some Tom York.
Yeah.
I would assume Creep was what I heard first, and then I just looked into them more. And I feel like at first, when I was first getting into them, went through all their albums and like listened and picked out songs from each album that I liked the most.
Really?
And bought them. Yeah.
So you like listened to the whole friggin' album and then...
Yeah, or would like listen to, you know how on iTunes you can kind of like click and listen
preview.
Yeah.
Oh my god, you're so dedicated.
I think I did that and would like listen to each one and then like pick out the songs that I felt like I liked the most.
Wow, just from
which
the little
is really
preview.
weird.
Yeah. It's a weird way of doing it.
Yeah, it is.
That's
and,
funny.
and that's how I picked out which ones I was attracted to the most, and then eventually just ended up like getting all the albums.
Right.
But
that's crazy. Do you have a favorite Radiohead album?
OK Computer's my top. I'd say In Rainbows with a close second. So
we're the same in that way.
Yes.
We're the same way.
Which I get really upset with people who don't have those two as the top.
Who don't have your opinion.
Who don't have my opinion.
Yeah.
No, but some people, if they're like, oh, OK Computer, like, nah. I'm like...
Yeah, it depends what they got into, you know, what era, because every album is so different.
Very. Very.
Not that I want to make this a Radiohead podcast, but
it could.
Yeah, it could. It's a rabbit hole we can go down.
Yes.
You know, maybe sometime in the future we'll have a Radiohead episode of just geeking out.
Radiohead appreciation.
Yeah.
I think that it's their anniversary, the 20 years of OK Computer.
2017 to 97. Yeah.
I want to say it's in May too, right?
Something. Yeah.
What's the release date?
Well, they just released a
wrong?
bunch of stuff. You know, they're remastering it from the original analog tapes, which is really exciting. They've got a bunch of B-sides and a few unreleased songs, like a double disc edition if you get it on CD. It's vinyl. Obviously, the like MP3 or Wave download, whatever. But yeah, it'd be really cool if they did a tour and just play that album all the way through. Because I don't think they've ever done that before.
No.
And I would go in a heartbeat.
Oh, I would too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think Radiohead has influenced your songwriting at all?
I think so, for sure. I almost feel like vocally, like
really?
Melodically, I feel like there's Radiohead influences. Obviously, it kind of filters itself into whatever you write, so instrumentation and whatever. But I feel like the breathy quality of my voice lends itself to Tom York a lot, and not being afraid to capitalize on that and all of your breaths and to create kind of an ethereal type of feeling. So I feel like that. I almost feel like vocally is where I get a lot of Radiohead stuff from.
I always notice Tom York never ends his words. Like, for example, in the song Lucky on OK Computer, at the end of the line he says, "We're standing on the edge."
And it's kind of just like,
He just never finishes the word. And he does that a lot.
Yeah.
Do you take that influence? Do you ever try that in your songs where you just like, and you just kind of let the word fade out and you never finish it?
That's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Well, when we were recording, people were telling me, like, you need to enunciate more on some of my songs. And then I would try to...
Tom York doesn't enunciate
He doesn't
at all.
Yeah. So I'm like, why should I have to?
Yeah.
But I would try to do it, and then it would almost sound unnatural. So we'd be like, okay, no, we're not doing that.
Like Reckoner from In Rainbows?
That's my favorite Radiohead song of all time.
Really?
Yes.
It's a great song, but
yes.
I have no idea what he's saying half the time.
Not. You know?
He's just,
yeah.
It's beautiful. I'm like, I wonder what he's saying. He could be...
And they have good things to say.
Right,
so it's a little mysterious when you finally go and look up those lyrics.
Right. He's got some cryptic lyrics.
Something to be said for. Yeah.
Cool. Were there any others that you were thinking of?
Oh, boy.
Big influences?
There's a ton.
You've got a Kurt Cobain shirt on
do.
right now. Our listeners can't see it. This is a podcast, but...
Yes, I do.
Kurt Cobain playing with a cat?
Yeah. I don't know.
I've never seen that picture before.
Neither had I until I saw this shirt. But once I saw it, I was like, I have to have it.
So I'm guessing Nirvana was somewhat of an influence on you.
Yes. Nirvana, I almost was more of a recent thing that I started getting into them. I'd say a few years ago.
Okay.
But yeah, Nirvana, huge influence. Kurt Cobain as a songwriter. For sure.
Nice. All right. Are there any artists or bands that took you a while to get into?
You mean like that I didn't really catch on to it first?
Yeah, like for me, honestly, Radiohead was one of those bands where I heard like Paranoid Android, I think, for the first time, and I'm like, what is this? This is so sad and so gloomy and depressing. And I'm like, I'm not about this at all. And then for some reason, a few months later, I heard it again, and I was just paying more attention, and I was like, whoa, like this song has different parts to it, and there's the creepy part, and there's like the rocking out part, and there's like the really chill part, and then, so...
Paranoid Android is like the equivalent of Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah, it kind of is.
It's like Radiohead's version of Bohemian Rhapsody,
right?
Kind of their magnum opus.
Totally.
For me, that band would probably be Neutral Milk Hotel.
Really?
You know them?
Oh yeah, I love them. They're great.
Yeah, me too. And when somebody recommended them to me, I was like, oh, you gotta listen to Neutral Milk Hotel. And when I first heard them, I was like, this is terrible. Like, I cannot get past this guy's voice. Like, I can't do it. And then I went back to it a couple months later, and I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. Like, what was I thinking? And now I love them. I saw them live and everything. I'm a huge Neutral Milk Hotel fan, so it did take me a second to get into.
Yeah, they're a tough band to get
them.
into. They're a little lo-fi.
Yes.
Jeff Mangum's voice is a little rough around the edges, but
it's supposed to be.
They've got great songs.
Yeah.
Who are you listening to right now, or what bands? Is there anything that you've gotten into recently?
I listen to all the ones we mentioned. I tend to listen to the same albums over and over again sometimes.
I mean, they're great albums. That's
which
what
is
they're there
not.
for.
Yeah. Right now, I'm really into Balance and Composure.
Okay,
I don't know if you. Yeah, they're really awesome. They're kind of Nirvana influenced. They're kind of like a modern, more like post rock, kind of grungy kind of thing. I really like them a lot. So they've been a huge influence. From Indian Lakes. Do you know them? I'm pulling out all the like
indie bands.
All the low key guys.
It's all good. There's some great music to be discovered that's not mainstream.
That's why I get so frustrated because I feel like there's so much out there, and there's just so much that I can't even access, and it almost frustrates me sometimes that there's stuff out there that I'm missing. Yeah. But them, who else? Mitski. I'm super into Mitski.
Nice. You just saw her live, right?
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
How was that experience?
It was awesome.
Yeah.
I've seen her twice now.
Really?
Yes. And when I saw her at Purchase, that was, to me, she was 10 times better than even when I saw her at her own respective.
Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You get to meet her, too, right?
I did.
After the show.
She seems very serious and very just, like, kind of in herself. And she's super professional. Cool. She's very focused.
That's good.
But,
That's good.
Yeah, I admire her a lot.
Very cool. I always like to ask this question, but if you could be/meet any musician or be in any band, who would it be and why?
If I could meet anybody, it would be Tom York, which is...
Tom York, yeah?
Yeah, that's the obvious choice. I just feel like... I really don't get starstruck, but I would be very starstruck if I met him. I'd probably, like, start crying or pass out or something.
Really? Oh,
yeah. No, I would try to keep it together, but I would definitely... I would love to just spend, like, a day with him and just talk to him about everything.
Yeah. I feel like I would want to talk to Johnny Greenwood.
That would also be very interesting.
Tom York kind of weirds me out. As much as I love him, I feel like it would just be hard to, like...
Get anything out of him?
Yeah, Yeah,
I haven't watched too many interviews or anything with him to really see how he conducts himself.
Yeah, it's interesting. It depends on what era.
Yeah.
Again. But yeah, I would say Radiohead. Good answer.
Yeah.
This is turning slowly into a
Radiohead discussion.
Yeah.
It very easily could.
It's all good. It's all good. But let's transition a little bit and let's get into some of your music.
Sure.
Now you've got 2 albums that you've released so far that are available on the internet, correct?
Yeah.
You've got Ayla's Diary.
Right.
Was that your first album?
My first full length. I had an EP when I was like 16 or 17.
Okay.
That's also.
But that's not available.
It is if you look deep enough.
Really? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a challenge, listeners.
Maybe I need to like go remove it before people start looking it up. But yeah, I do have an EP out, and then I had Ayla's Diary, which was my first full length.
Okay. And what was that like recording that?
I was a freshman in college, so it feels like a different world now, kind of. But I really I had all these songs that I felt like attributed themselves to diary entries. It just felt like this kind of angelic singer-songwriter, a lot of piano ballads that felt like really candid diary entries, and I really wanted to convey that. So I came up with this character, Ayla.
Okay. I was going to ask, is Ayla a real person? Or
Ayla's a fictional character. I decided upon her name by Googling pretty girl names. With I think I felt like 2 syllables or something, and came across Ayla, which means the light that orbits the moon. I thought that was beautiful.
That's a cool meaning.
Yeah, I thought that was beautiful. And so I really just expanded upon her story and what her character is and what she's been through, and recorded that album in probably like 2 months max, and just put it together. And I felt like I had an important story to tell. So that's kind of what came out of that.
Now, what inspired Ayla's stories and diary entries? Was those things from your life?
I guess every song that an artist writes, there's some kind of truth to it that's expanded upon in some way. But really, she was just this fictional character that I came up with. I wrote a couple songs and felt like it was a female character that didn't really exist already. And the more songs I wrote, the more it just seemed like I was telling more of her story.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, was that a conscious thing where you're like, I'm going to write an album or these songs about a fictional character, or did it just kind of happen naturally and
I think,
like, let's run with this?
I think it kind of just happened naturally. The title track, Ayla's Diary, when I wrote that, was kind of... I actually started writing it about a totally different concept, and it morphed itself into a story that was non-existent.
Oh, okay, sense. Yeah, sure.
And it just kind of morphed, and then I started to try to come up with who the character was and a title for the song. And so then once I wrote that song, that's when it started going in that direction. That was sort of the springboard
that led you to write the rest of the album.
Exactly, yeah.
It's a cool idea for an album.
Thanks.
You know, it's a totally fictional character story like that.
Yeah.
Which is neat. And you said angelic, too, and the album cover's got wings of an angel, I assume, is what that is, too, right?
Yes.
Is there any sort of symbolism or meaning behind that, or that's just trying to describe the sound? Because you described it as sounding angelic.
Right.
Is there any, like, imagery of angels in the lyrics?
There definitely is. There's definitely a holy quality to it, but I'd say more so... I guess it's really up to the listener's interpretation what happens to Ayla and what her journey is, but I think that there's definitely those undertones on the record.
Cool.
Hide and seek, instead we play hide and seek.
That is available to check out on Bandcamp, right?
Yes. iTunes, Spotify, all that stuff. It's out there.
Nice. And you have a website as well, right?
Yes, GeenaRenee.com.
Nice. You can find all the important stuff you need to find on there.
Yes. Tour dates, there's some videos, even a whole lyrics tab.
Nice.
Which is a nice feature.
That's cool. I don't see that too much with artists.
Thanks.
You know?
Yeah, I think that's important because I feel like my lyrics are really important to me, and I feel like they should be out there so people could follow along.
Nice. And especially if you sing like Tom York.
Exactly. If I don't enunciate, then I really need to make sure my lyrics are on my website.
Absolutely. So be like, oh, that's what she's saying.
Yeah, exactly.
And then after that, you had the album, The Candlelight Series.
Yes.
You want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I kind of just decided it had been a while since I had released some music, and I felt like I was writing a lot of new stuff. So I decided last summer, oh my God, that was almost a year ago. Wow. Crazy. Okay. Yeah, that feels like it was just yesterday. I wanted to record these videos of me performing some original material, just in a really intimate setting. Me, some candles, and a video camera, and really just perform some new material. Let people hear what it's like just to hear me singing alone at the piano.
Very raw, very intimate,
not
super produced and polished.
Exactly. There's really no editing on any of the videos. It just is what it is. And I posted one every week throughout the summer.
Okay.
And then I made recorded versions and put it up for a free download just for everybody to kind of hear what I was up to. It's kind of just like checking in with me.
Right. That's cool. Be like, hey, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So are there 2 versions of each song then? A video version and then a recorded?
Right.
Like, I don't want to say demo because that kind of assumes it's not good quality. But
it kind of is a demo, though.
Kind of a
demo?
I'm
okay with calling it that. Okay. It's just me alone on my laptop putting it together. Definitely nothing crazy or high quality. It's just to be able to enjoy the song.
Nice. Now, did you end up liking the video versions better or the just audio version better?
Now that I've heard the most of those songs come to life in an actual recording studio, I'd probably say the video versions are better. But I haven't watched them in a while.
Yeah.
I kind of have stepped away. I need to go back and rewatch and listen to what I did last summer.
Nice. Yeah, well, if anyone's interested, go check them out. What's the best way to find those videos on YouTube?
Oh, it's on YouTube. You could go to youtube.com/Geena Renee.
Okay.
You can also check them out on Bandcamp if you want to check out the audio versions, which is geenarenee.bandcamp.com.
Nice. Very cool. And now coming to the present here, you're working on a new full-length album.
Yes.
Very exciting.
Yes.
You want to tell us a little bit about that?
We just finished recording it, so it's... I hate to use the word that it's finished or done.
Artists never like to say anything is finished.
I get very, like, almost superstitious about that, and I told the person I was working with not to call the files final mix.
Really?
That, like, freaks me out. I'm like, no, you can't call it final. Don't put that in the file name. But it's definitely very different than anything I've done thus far. Totally different stylistic direction. There's more of a kind of grungy rock feel to it.
Nice.
And it almost has some touches of, like, art music in a way.
Interesting.
Some little minor, maybe, like, avant-garde influences onto some grungy rock. So it's definitely very different. But I'm really excited about it. The lyrical content is really, really different, too.
Really?
Yeah. Very, very dark, which has always been my thing, I guess. But I feel like I kind of did the angelic singer-songwriter thing last time, and now I feel like that album was almost not about me. It was because it was about Ayla.
Right, it's about the character.
If that makes sense. And then I feel like this album is really about me and who I am now, which
Nice. A little bit more personal.
It's very intimate.
Was that scary to put that on record?
It was a little scary because I feel like it's very unapologetic in nature in lyrical content. It's very blunt. It just is what it is. Very vulnerable, which is scary in a way.
Of course. You're putting yourself out there for the world to judge.
For sure. But I think I needed to do it, so...
Nice. It was like a catharsis for you, a little bit of therapy.
For sure. And some of them are pretty emotionally draining to record. But I think I have performed, played, sang all the material so much that I've been able to kind of collect myself and almost deconnect from it in a way to be able to say that how it's going to be recorded and to be able to get it done.
Look at it objectively.
Yeah.
From a little bit of a distance.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's funny because it almost seems like you're coming full circle in some ways because you said your first song was "This Is Me," right?
The real me.
The real me, right?
Yeah.
So you said it's like, okay, this album kind of sounds like it's a similar vibe to what you were going for way back when you were 10 years old or whatever.
That's so cute. Yeah, I
don't know if that was on purpose or not. But
no, I never thought of it like that. That's adorable.
Just something I noticed just from you telling me that now. I was like, sounds like you're obviously a little bit more refined now that you're not 10 years old anymore.
For
sure. It seems like you kind of have the same goal in mind. It's just interesting. Like a common thread running through all your music, maybe.
Yeah, I think it has to do also with becoming older and not having as much fear, having a little bit more confidence, you know?
Sure.
Especially once you've been studying music for a few years, there's less of a filter almost.
Right,
and you're kind of just like, I'm going to just put it all out there. Whatever happens, happens. And I think there's a theme with that on the album, too.
And for our listeners who don't know, Geena has been studying music at Purchase College.
Yes.
Major in studio composition, correct?
Yes, and also arts management.
Arts management, nice. Double major?
Yes.
Nice. Now, do you think going to school for music has influenced your songwriting at all?
100%, yes. Yeah. I'm a totally different songwriter after going to school here. Totally different person, too, naturally, when you go away to school.
You grow, you change.
Yes, but I look back at my portfolio that I submitted when I auditioned to get in here, and I'm like, Lord help me. Like, it's just so, I mean, it's great. It's
great that you've grown and changed.
So much, yeah, which is due to a lot of my professors guiding me and helping me through it.
Right.
And even just being around other students who are who are doing
right,
amazing
exactly.
things.
That's sort of the whole point, is you build up a network and you meet new people and
For
are
sure.
exposed to new ideas and new music and whatnot.
For sure, yeah.
And you mentioned like avant-garde stuff and experimental stuff in your albums.
Yes.
Knowing that you've gone to school for music or
Yes.
currently going to school for music, I'm sure you were exposed to some pretty out there stuff.
For sure. We've had some quirky classes, which has definitely helped me a lot. And even in one of my classes, we were using contact mics a lot. And I ended up using one on my album for
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes, part of my album. A very small snippet, but it's probably the most what's the word? Other than risky.
Experimental?
Yeah, the most experimental song I'd say on the record. I used a contact mic in it and was using a lot of found sounds. And I would have never done that or even had the idea to do that if I hadn't taken certain classes here. So
Now, for those of our listeners who aren't familiar, can you explain what a contact mic is?
Oh God, can you explain better what a contact mic
maybe,
is? There's a contact mic very much so operates on contact.
Right, exactly.
So if you just sing into it, or if you were to just tap it, you really wouldn't get any sound out of it. It's the fact that it's operating on the vibrations of the surface it's coming in contact with, right? Did I do a good job?
Yes. Bravo, yes, that's good.
Thanks.
And what inspired you to use that? Because obviously it's a little bit more unconventional than a typical like condenser microphone. Or
Definitely.
ribbon microphone.
I don't know, something different. I have this one song called Flies, and the second half of that song kind of erupts into this creepy carnival circus type of sounding thing.
Nice.
And we decided that there was going to be a lot of just random sounds in it. I shouldn't say random because they're choreographed very intentionally and arranged with certain purpose, but we decided that we were going to just kind of take a day to see what we can put onto the song once the instrumental was laid down.
Right.
And we weren't even planning to do it the one day, but we were planning to start vocals that day, and I was really sick and couldn't sing.
Oh, no.
So we decided, okay, that's going to be our day to just kind of experiment with a bunch of sounds.
That's a good idea.
And the contact mic ended up coming into play just because I had one, and I ended up putting it up to my vocal cords and kind of humming this creepy kind of melody.
Ooh.
And it ended up sounding great, so we used that.
That's fantastic.
So, yeah, really just trial and error. Stuff kind of came out of nowhere.
I'm
But
looking forward to hearing all this.
yes,
on the record.
yes, of course. Now you'll be able to spot that out where the contact mic was used.
There was a girl who lost her way. She was tormented, they say. I do not know her name. We do not speak of how or why, but we will bow our heads and cry. Cry, cry, cry. The noise never settles down until somebody dies. And by the time our ears pop out, our faces full of flies. Oh, how pitiful. Oh, how pitiful. She was such a pretty girl.
Nice. Now, were there any songs from like the Candlelight series that you've used on the new album? Because those were just demo qualities. And you're like, I want to actually record these.
For sure. I feel like the Candlelight series was almost like acoustic versions of everything.
Right. It's almost like a demo. You know how
It
people
really
do
is,
demos for their album. That
For
was sort of
sure.
like your practice.
It
run
really
in a way.
was. A lot of them made it onto the album. I'm trying to think. Safe Haven, Microscope, Midnight Oxygen. Those are all A Science. What else? I'm going through the album in my head. I think those might be the only ones. Yeah.
And then
I think
everything else is new.
Didn't make it. Yeah, I think so.
New songs that you wrote in between or whatnot.
Yes.
Cool. Now, two of the songs you mentioned there sort of have interesting backstories. Microscope and Midnight Oxygen.
Yes.
I've heard both of these songs.
Yes.
I believe live, because obviously I haven't heard the album.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I've heard the Candlelight series as well. Let's start with Microscope. It's a really interesting song.
Yeah. Quirky.
Yeah, it's got kind of, you were talking about that cabaret style inspired by Moulin Rouge and Panic at the Disco and stuff. Definitely getting some vibes there.
Yes.
At least on the demo version. And I know you said for the recorded version there's going to be some more instrumentation, right?
We had 2 trumpets, we had a clarinet.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Which was
so
cool.
What inspired that song? Because lyrically that's, you look at it, there's a lot of cool lines in there, and it's pretty obvious what you're talking about without actually coming out and saying it, which is what I like. Everyone can get it, but you don't have to... you're respecting the intelligence of your audience, which I appreciate.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Well, that song was really, I feel like, the catalyst in that whole style, subset, so to speak, of my music. That kind of quirky, creepy circus
carnival thing. Oh, okay.
That was really the first one that I wrote that song and was like, where does this fit in with the rest of my music?
It's not grungy, it's not poppy.
Yeah, which then kind of inspired other stuff. But I wrote it basically about how we're all super, super critical of ourselves physically and how we do a lot of drastic things to try to alter the way we look to achieve what we consider this perfection. A lot of people resort to plastic surgery or even just unhealthy habits in general. And I wanted to write a satirical piece.
Right.
Kind of
she said perfection with air quotes. You can't see it. But
I should realize that people can't see all of my hand motions. Maybe that's a good thing.
But like you said, satirical.
Yes.
Too.
Yeah. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I needed something to present to one of my classes the next day. And so I went to the music building and was like, I have to write a song to present, and that kind of just came out of nowhere.
Really?
Yeah.
So it sounds like you wrote that very quickly.
Very. A couple hours in the music building, and it was done.
Nice. And that's primarily on piano, right?
Yes. I wrote it just for piano, and then the full band arrangement has drums in it. It has bass. When we play it live, we use guitar, but the recorded version doesn't have a guitar.
Oh, interesting.
Then,
That's cool. That's a cool
and then
choice.
it just has the 2 trumpets and the clarinet.
Do you have wrinkles when you frown? Lines that scream your age loud. Jump underneath the microscope. Do your eyes droop down? Are your feet as big as a clown's? Jump underneath the microscope. I'll need paper, pen, a ruler, scale, a magnifying glass, charts with decimals, percentiles to show it to the class. Let's blow up the frame, watch perfection take shape underneath the microscope.
Nice. Now, when you're writing, you said primarily you write on piano and guitar. Does it depend on what song, for what instrument you write? Do you go back and forth on one song? Like, all right, try this on guitar, try this on piano. What's your process?
What's interesting is when I was younger and I first started playing those 2 instruments, I wrote my songs pretty strictly on guitar.
Okay.
But once I came to school, started college, I started writing everything on piano.
Really?
I don't know why.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which I'm a lot better at piano than I am at guitar, so that helps. So I'd say 99% of the time I write on piano. When I play with my band, sometimes I play guitar, but piano is definitely more of my strong suit.
Sure.
So I tend to bring it to the band when we're trying to make arrangements.
Right.
I don't really switch back and forth too often.
Really? Once you've got, all right, I'm going to start on piano, you stick to the piano for the writing process.
Yeah, it usually follows through. Unless I end up tossing it over to my guitarist. Sometimes maybe he'll play it on guitar. But for the most part, I stay with piano.
That's cool.
Thanks.
Well, we're excited to hear the full recorded version of that.
Yes, I'm excited to share it with you.
And Midnight Oxygen.
Yes.
Interesting story behind this one, too, as well.
Yes. It was inspired by Breaking Bad. I'm a huge Breaking Bad fan.
Nice.
And watching some of the scenes in that show, I almost don't want to give it away, but I was inspired.
Right. You don't want to do any spoilers here.
I know. There's that fine line between letting the listener make their own interpretation, also
Right.
giving a little insight as to what the
All right,
inspiration
just be as
was,
vague
but
as you possibly can.
I'll be vague and just say it was inspired by some of the characters on that show. And
Okay.
if you listen, then maybe you can figure
Right.
out
If
what's
you've
happening.
seen the show, you can probably figure out who it's about.
Yes, because I think you did.
Yes.
Because
Mhm.
you came up to me after one of my shows and said, I think I got it.
Yeah. Once you told me it, I wouldn't have picked up on it if you hadn't told me it was about Breaking
Because
Bad.
it could be about anybody.
Right, it could, and that's the
And it
great
should
thing
be,
about it.
yeah.
Right, like it doesn't have to be. Am I correct in saying that it's inspired by the Breaking Bad scene and characters, but it's not about them?
Correct.
Or is it about them?
No, that's fair. It's
Okay.
inspired by them, but it
Okay.
certainly is not restricted to them, and I didn't only have them in mind when writing it.
Okay, so in that way, maybe you could describe what it could be about. What's the sort of vibe of the song? What's the message? Regardless of whether or not it's Breaking Bad or not.
Right. That's a great way of looking at it. It's a relationship between two people where one or both of them are struggling in some way and kind of going in this circle of struggle and adversity, and one or both of them trying to pick each other up when the other is constantly falling.
I
And
see.
having
Okay.
that person who is kind of your saving grace, and at the 11th hour being able to help you through it, if that makes sense.
No, that totally makes sense. That's very cool. That's what I wanted to ask. Is like I don't want to ruin the Breaking Bad thing.
Yes.
But again, it's not. The genius of it is that it's not attached to that.
Yeah.
It can be cool when you know that little anecdote, but you could also appreciate the song as its own thing without ever having seen the TV show.
Of course, a relationship where you're dependent on the other person, and they're picking you up.
Hold me close and wait for the calm down. Pick me up just to watch me fall again. You're getting too close. You're getting too close. Save your ignorance.
I feel like when I try to explain songs, it makes so much sense in my head, and then when you try to put it into words, sometimes it becomes so difficult.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Because you just know what it means in your head because
I
you
know.
wit. It.
Because you get annoying podcast hosts that ask you these difficult questions like
No,
me.
it's okay. It's okay. I'm trying my best to answer them.
No, it's great. We appreciate it. And we're looking forward to hearing the full version.
Yes,
like
of course.
I was like, we talked a little bit about this before, but technology in music is a topic that comes up a lot, especially being 2017 now. Technology
sure.
is incredibly useful for us, especially as artists and musicians. I guess it's just a general question. What's your opinion on how technological advancements in the music industry specifically, do you think they've helped? Do you think they've hurt? And if so, in what ways?
Oh God, that could be a podcast. In
Right,
itself, too.
exactly.
I think that it's definitely both. I think they've definitely helped us advance in terms of quality, obviously, the ability to record anywhere and at a lot of different levels. There's so many access to just home studios, and people are doing their own recordings outside of the studio, which is really important. Then also the fact that you can share it with the click of a button is huge and is a great thing because it makes everything more accessible, but then you also have this oversaturation within the music industry because anybody can make their own music that now you have even more to compete with and more that you have to prove yourself over. And then also being able to sell it becomes a little bit harder, and the value of music goes down.
Nobody wants to buy music anymore.
Yes,
right?
I mean it goes in so many different directions. There's so many different consequences and but also benefits. I think it's one of those things where there's always inventions that are a really good thing, but then we always find a way to abuse them a little bit.
Sure.
Somehow.
That's a good point.
It kind of is just human nature to almost like ruin a good thing. So I mean, I'm fully supportive of technology and music. I think it's really, really important, but I try to remove myself a little bit so that it doesn't become, it doesn't ruin the intimacy of music.
Right, exactly.
If that makes
Because
sense.
it can be a very intimate thing, like you said.
Yeah, I think there needs to be a balance.
Right,
That we
and
don't
you can definitely
overabuse.
lose that with the way technology makes it so easy to sort of transfer it, and
Yeah.
you know, you can get it anywhere. You can get it on your phone, your laptop, your tablet, your car, or whatever.
Right.
And jumping off of that, because of the internet and technology, do you think location matters for musicians anymore in order to quote unquote make it? Do you think it matters where you are? Do you think you have to be in a scene? Or, you know, the other side of the argument is that you could be in a little log cabin in Montana, and if you're producing the greatest rock music of the past 10 years, people are going to hear you, because if you put it out there, there's no way it's not going to get found if it's that good.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely something to be said for that. I think location doesn't necessarily matter. From what I understand, I feel like you're almost better off not being in the U.S. sometimes.
Really?
I think that in Europe mostly, also, yeah. Mm-hmm. I feel like there tends to be more respect towards musicians, and
I've heard that as well.
It's looked more as a respectable?
That's a word, yes.
Respectable profession, mm-hmm. And people take it more seriously.
Right. I've heard that
Whereas
too.
in the U.S., it's kind of just like,
it's a commodity.
Nobody wants to pay for music.
Right.
It's like, you can't make money doing music. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I almost feel like being in the U.S. sometimes is a disadvantage as mm-hmm. a musician. But as far as even within the U.S., the state versus that state, a city versus a rural town, mm-hmm. I guess really if you promote yourself properly and you find out where your niche is and what your scene
right.
is, you can make it within that scene. Because I know a lot of bands who come from all over,
right, and
who are doing really well. And
that's what I was going to ask. You know anyone personally that's maybe not from New York or L.A. or Chicago or something like that?
I feel like, I think of Pine Grove. Do you know Pine Grove? Mm-hmm. They're still East Coast. They're from Montclair, New Jersey.
Okay.
Which is pretty close to where I'm from,
mm-hmm.
and I feel like that's kind of a random place to be from, and they're
right.
doing really well for themselves, even on a even bigger scale. Foxing, I think they're from St. Louis, mm-hmm. Which they're coming from city, but they're also coming from like not the stereotypical like, oh, you got to be in New York, you got to be in LA
right.
kind
mm-hmm.
of thing. I feel like a lot of bands are just from everywhere.
Right, yeah.
It's
that's how it's always been.
inclusive.
It's just more people back in the day, you know, you didn't have the access to your audience as easily unless you were part of the big machine of the record companies and whatnot. They're like, all right, we have the power to market and to promote, because back in the day it was, you know, radio and TV were pretty much the two primary ways to market as far as I understand it.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's a good thing then, right?
Yeah. I feel like for the most part, you don't even... when you're listening to bands, granted, that aren't, you know, really, really big scale, I feel like most of the time you don't even know where they're from.
Exactly.
Like, you don't even realize it until you really learn more about them and you read from
mm-hmm.
their biography. So I feel like that is pretty irrelevant.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, before we wrap things up, 2 questions that are sort of connected.
Okay. I'm gearing up.
Yeah. What defines success in music for you, personally?
Oh, God. I wish I knew the answer to that. No, I'm just kidding. I'd say, for me, it's really important to remain true to myself. Mm-hmm. Somebody, when I was recording, was asking me, do you feel like when the record is done, it's because you feel good about it, or does that matter less than what everybody else feels about it? And I was like, no, I definitely have to feel good about it, and I have to be passionate about it, and I have to be 100% behind it. So success for me would be able to... This sounds so pessimistic. For me to listen back to my record and not feel like there's anything I want to change about it.
That's good.
To
that's
listen
honest.
back and feel like, okay, there's nothing I don't like about this. There's nothing that like makes me uncomfortable, makes me cringe, like that I can feel 100% satisfied with it.
Nice.
So I feel like you have to just be happy with what you're doing and be proud of yourself and be able to stand by it. To me, that's successful.
And that's hard to do.
It is.
So, especially
really
being
hard.
happy with what you just produced.
It's really hard to be happy with what you're coming up with sometimes, but I think that's more so than how many tickets you're selling or how many albums you're selling or who you're playing with. I feel like
how much money you're making.
Yeah, I feel like if you want to be a successful artist and creator, you have to really just be happy with what you're doing.
Right.
Is that cheesy?
It's not at all.
Is that like a not good answer?
No, I like that answer, because the typical thing you'd expect would be, if I, like you said, sell out Wembley Stadium or Madison Square Garden. Yeah.
I'm open to that.
Right, of course. We all are.
To that. But
Like I like that. I appreciate that because like the art has to come first before any of the other stuff. It's like the foundation you build the house on.
Yeah.
The foundation is not strong and not good quality.
Yeah.
You know, for lack of a better term, everything's going to crumble down and fall down upon it.
Yeah.
That's cool. Cool answer. I like that.
Thanks.
And also relating to that, what are you? I'm gonna try that again with vowels. What are your musical goals for now and into the future? 5-10 years, whatever timeline you want to use.
Obviously, right now I'm really focused on getting the album out there.
Right.
That's the short-term goal. So I want to have we're going to be working on a video, releasing a single, and then eventually being able to release the album. So short-term, I really want to make sure that it gets out there and that people hear about it and that people know about it. So that's definitely the short-term. God, more so 5 or 10 years.
I know. Everyone I ask this question to hates this part.
Yeah, I feel like I'm not thinking that far ahead.
Well, that's good because there is something to be said for living in the moment.
Well, which is interesting because usually I'm a planner and I'm always thinking like 10 steps ahead, but...
Caught you off guard a little bit.
Yeah, I am very caught off guard. I don't know. Now I'm going to like go home and stress them and be like, I don't know what I'm doing in 5 years.
I don't want you to have like a mental breakdown because of this podcast. That's not the idea here.
I think that I just want to be continuing to push boundaries, and because I feel like this record is definitely the most daring thing I've done.
Right, so it's a lot different.
It is, and I want to just continue to push myself to be more daring and create more and just continue to put myself out there. I'm open to whatever the industry throws at me. So if in 5-10 years I decide I want to go work in an office cubicle from 9 to 5, like that's cool. I'll still be doing music anyway.
Right. I was gonna say, I assume you'll still continue music no matter what you end up doing.
No matter what, whether it's my main focus, whether I'm working in the music industry, business-wise,
right,
and then also
you
performing
have the arts
outside.
management
degree
too.
Even if I end up in TV or something different in arts and entertainment, but then I'm also doing my own music on the side or booking music or whatever. Like it's there's no way I'm giving up music in any capacity. It's always going to be there. So whatever the industry throws at me, if I end up doing one lane of the industry or if I go more so for another lane, I'll be content.
Nice.
I'm open to it.
Nice. And obviously you want to graduate college, I assume.
Yes, that would also definitely be one of the goals within the next year.
Nice. Do you think you'd want to go to grad school or anything? Or you think you want to just hit the scene and...
I think in an ideal world I would love to. I think logistically it's not something that's going to be possible. But maybe even down the road once I'm working, if I save up and I decide I want to go back to school. I'm not ready to graduate yet. That's more so the problem is I want to just stay. But I feel like once all my friends are gone, then maybe it won't be as appealing. And I don't know. We'll see.
Cool. All right, well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Geena.
Thank you for having me. This was fun. This was easy and natural, I feel.
Yeah, awesome. That's the goal. Yeah. Keep it chill. Keep it nice and relaxed.
Yes.
And before we go, just one more time, if people want to check out your music, where can they go on the internet?
They could go to GeenaRenee.com, which will basically redirect them to all my social media. But if you want to like me on Facebook, Facebook.com/GeenaReneeMusic, YouTube.com/Geena Renee, Twitter and Instagram @GeenaReneeMusic. Did I catch everything? Bandcamp, GeenaRenee.bandcamp.com.
SoundCloud.
SoundCloud.com/GeenaReneeMusic.
So many things. Twitter?
Twitter @GeenaReneeMusic. Did I get everything?
Reverb Nation, if anyone still uses that.
I that was never my thing.
No. MySpace?
Probably.
Yeah.
I hope not. You could probably find my profile from when I was like 12. Maybe.
I was going to say, maybe your old profile.
I hope not. With those like blinking backgrounds. Like, you know how you make like your own layout?
I never had one.
Oh,
I never had one. I missed it.
I basically learned how to do HTML from like...
From MySpace?
Yeah, from making MySpace backgrounds.
Oh, God. That's crazy. Cool. And the new album, when's the expected release date?
We're looking at fall.
Okay, sometime fall 2017?
Yes.
Awesome. Cool.
So.
All right, well, we'll look forward to it.
Yes,
Can't
me
wait.
too.
Yeah.
I'm also looking forward to it.
Nice. And thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. And my name is Jared Rocco, and this has been Journey of the Sound. Thanks for listening.